and episodes that put us in the director's chair. Are we back there?
Yes.
All right then. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome to the stage Andy Berman.
Hey.
Kirsten Nelson. Steve Ranks. And James Rode Rodriguez.
By the way, the objective here is for me to talk the least, because these people have to be so sick of me at this point.
No, no one's sick of you.
Did anyone else think this panel with the first timers thing was about something else? And now I feel awkward.
Well, not everybody on this panel has had their first time yet, so we're waiting for that magical special moment to occur, and then we'll do that. Hey, Kirsten, we have a perfect transition from the last session to this one. Is your microphone working yet?
I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, you can hear me. Okay, great. Yeah, what?
The question was about what was the most difficult emotionally moment for them to film, and Tim said, we're talking about your episode 1967. I think you know which scene I might be talking about. And how unfair is it for you to have on your first directing foray one of the most powerful moments in the entire show?
No, I mean, it was for me to suddenly, because I got a call from you guys, and they're like, hey, we're ending. You want to direct? So I said, yeah. And
It's bittersweet.
Yeah, bitter, right? Sweet, but bitter. I'm not bitter. But it was, I thought for sure you guys were going to give me a bottle episode. And I've talked about this before. For those who don't know, a bottle episode in like TV talk is a small one, usually taking place in one location with a smaller, just like main cast, right? It doesn't involve time travel or clubs or musical numbers and different accents, Mr. Rodriguez. So I thought for sure I'll get a nice bottle episode. And then Mel Tricker and Rodriguez decided to show up and write 1967, A Psych Odyssey. And I said, shit, I can do this. But what was hard is that I came back and I was leaving, so you put me in it as well, so I had to be in it. And we were saying our goodbyes. So we were ending. I mean, we knew that we were walking, we knew we were slow stepping or slow dripping our finale. And so this one was full of emotion, and James putting it in there and Mel Tricker putting it in there of goodbyes. My goodbye, and then Lassie and Juliet's goodbye, and then Sean and Juliet's goodbye. So it was full of goodbyes, and when it came, was it the office scene?
Yes,
okay. Yeah, it was the office scene with Lassiter. Ooh, hello. With Lassiter and Juliet, not a dry eye. And including myself, and it was really hard to kind of see through this, but do I give you credit now, James?
You shouldn't.
Okay. James brought up a good point, and this was my first time directing this episodic stuff, and we knew the emotions that were going to be tied, and James was finishing. He was already there before I got there, but we were on the same path. Shoot him at the exact same time. Nobody will cover, like this will be James's coverage, and then everybody takes a break as we move all the cameras to get Andy's coverage. And I thank you for that, because I think that emotion that we were able to get out of Tim and Maggie is because we had 2 cameras rolling at the exact same time over both of their shoulders so that we could capture those moments as we started our goodbyes. And I know that meant a lot for them, and I think it came through on the final edit. So,
Yeah.
so thanks, James.
And seriously, kudos to you, because it's like that, all of that put into one, and for that episode to come out as much of a classic that sits among the tops of all our episodes is such a testament that you're doing all this stuff. What I think is fascinating is you're in that scene right there, hugging everybody, saying goodbye, and at some point you have to say, cut.
Yeah, it was like, and do we feel it? Cut? Do you trust it? And then, you gotta go, everybody know, you guys know, you gotta go look at the monitor and make sure, did we get it? Yeah. But yeah, that was good. That was real good. And it was an honor to be there and to tell that story and to keep that episode still in the family and not an outside director. So thank you for letting that one, that goodbyes, that sending off, and so full of emotion, still be in the directing family.
James, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to the director's chair? Did you always know it was going to be Tuesday 17th?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the original thought, you tell me if I'm misremembering this, was Hitchcock. And then, for a myriad reasons, we decided to not do that, and I'm glad we did, because we were able to turn Hitchcock into a Yang episode. So then it was like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, the porn episode. And Steve said, I don't think we're there yet. But we will be. Lies.
Naturally.
I said I should do a slasher episode because I think I've seen more slasher movies than any human should. And I started watching them when I was 4 or 5 years old, which explains a lot about what's wrong with my brain. But I knew that, I'm just sort of a shot encyclopedia for that genre. And I said, let's do Friday the 13th. Let's write it together. And Steve, of course, said yes, because at that point he had seen, I think, a slasher, right? And yeah, it ended up being absolutely the right choice, because even though it was my first time behind the camera, I had so much bravado and silly false confidence because I had seen so many slasher movies that I knew I could get away with not needing to have a single original thought. I could just steal every single shot in the episode from other films, which I did. And you guys liked it, so.
James actually gives himself, a lot less credit than he did, because yes, you were full of bravado, but whereas I'm the sort of the conduit between the studio and the people that are getting mad at us when we're going slightly off the track, he doesn't give a shit. And he's sending back dailies that he's adding grain to and making darker, and our studio is freaking out,
Excited. They were really excited that you brought a slasher into the Psych universe, weren't they? They were so behind you and supportive, and they wanted you to do it again and again and again, weren't they?
Our executives called me the Prince of Darkness, which I honestly always thought was pretty cool.
My favorite quote from the show is, after we did the second Yang episode, is there was someone who was very, very high up, very important, and the only words we got was, "How could you have let them do this again?" And that's when we fist bumped, because we know we had made it.
But, and I know you will all be able to echo this, I think it's important to say that for all of us who directed for the first time on Psych, it was the, like, softest landing, warmest, like, we could not have felt more supported because our crew was so incredible. And
That crew.
yeah, they're just rooting for you to succeed and there to catch you if and when you fall. And it was impossible to fail, frankly. Like, no matter how, and I think we all tried our best to rise to the occasion as well, but even if we hadn't, the episode still would have come out fine because everybody wanted us to have that experience and to succeed on that show. And that was every episode on Psych.
Yeah, there was never that kind of contentious, one-up of like anybody with the directors, with the editors, with the producers of, oh, we're gonna get this one, John Landis, we're gonna take him down. That support, I knew I couldn't fail. If I had made a weird choice, they would still back me. And they would try to make it my vision still, like, okay, I guess we're gonna support her. And then they're like, oh, that really, really, really does work. And they weren't gonna let me fall. And that made it so much more comfortable.
Well, also, I was there for Tuesday the 17th, and Roday talks about it in the sense like, oh, I stole every shot or whatever odes to his favorite things he was doing. But we were a show that was a scrappy show, and we're all talking about it, like how incredible our crew was to be able to pull off sometimes 6.5 day, 7-day episodes. It's almost impossible for a 1-hour show, and the kind of things we were doing. You came to the table with things that should have been impossible to do on any like major feature film. Like that's what the level of what I think you were trying to accomplish with these shots. They didn't just have to, they had to be as good or better than what it was that you had seen on the screen. And I saw our crew do things like that were just unbelievable to watch. With seconds ticking, like, to do, carrying huge...
Catch the light, gotta move it,
just like miraculous, heroic, unbelievable pull-offs of stuff to get that done. And I was also there, I was also there for Steve's first directing, was I not?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So I was there to witness Steve doing it as well. So I got to be the observer of both of these guys. But that's a great way to segue into you, Steve, and how I know you probably knew you were going to direct from the time you were writing the show. But when you were going to do it and what episode you were going to do it, I'm curious how that came together.
I think what was so great about us going into it is I had no idea you could even make yourself a director on a show. I didn't know that was okay.
It's your show.
Yeah, well, I didn't know any of that stuff. I mean, I think not knowing, like I said, when we sold the show, I didn't know what a 1-hour script looked like. I had them send me a sample. I didn't know what you're not supposed to do, and I think that sort of blissful ignorance helped us create something that, at least felt different. And certainly we realized right away, and James and I are like, okay, I think we want to keep veering right. And then we want to take, at the end of the first season, we're going to take a hard right. And that was, that gave us the opportunity for me to direct, for James to come in and just, do something new. And, the schedule is crazy. Like, some of these Apple shows shoot like 25 days for an episode, and we were always like, 6 or 7, and sometimes we'd steal days for an episode. And the most amazing thing, because I was up there for Tuesday 17th only because I wanted to see it, not to I was worried about anything. But there are sections of this show. There were massive storms that were washing out the camp. He's shooting a fight in the bottom of a pool with an effect of a hole in the hand. And whereas Andy and I might be visibly shaking, James is like literally could not have been more worried about what was happening next. He goes, oh, we'll just pick that up. We'll do that in one. And you're acting like a veteran from day one. And it's it's pretty incredible.
I'm telling you guys, you should have just borrowed everything from other movies on your first episode, and you wouldn't have had any of that anxiety. But Steve, why don't you remind everybody what your first episode was, and when it was, and why you chose that one?
Okay, when it was, I couldn't tell you because I don't remember that far back. I think it was the end of season 2. It was Shaun and Gus of the Dead. It was the mummy episode. And if you know anything about me, you know I spend a lot of time at theme parks and museums. And I would bring the family up all the time. My son was six weeks old on the pilot. He's here tonight. Quentin, are you here? He's the living embodiment of the age of our show. And now in film school. So the living embodiment of what happens. And so we would go to the museum all the time, and all of a sudden I'm like, this is an amazing place. Imagine if I got to shoot here for one day, and we would spend a lot of time also in the space one, and
the aquarium. You like the aquarium?
Yeah, exactly. And it was a way for me to get a season pass to the aquarium and be able to write it off.
Well done, well done.
So for me, it was like, I just want to go in that building, and it was like having Night at the Museum to yourself, and we had control of that building, and I knew I wanted to do a mummy episode, and I learned that you shouldn't schedule an episode that takes place predominantly at night, because you're starting shooting at 8 o'clock, and there were some very late nights, but it's just like, I don't know, you just imagine. What we write is weird, you know, and to give it to another director, they do pretty well with it, but there's sometimes, and I know this is going to be my Andy question, it's like they don't quite understand the very strange place it's coming from, and so to have a chance to sort of try to put what's in your brain, not just on paper, but directly onto the screen. Like, are you kidding me? That's like the biggest wish fulfillment thing out of this entire thing, you know, out of this entire process. It's like it's the purest. It's like going from James's head right into your living room. And Andy, that was what I said. We got to give Andy an episode because nobody is understanding Andy Berman the way he needs to be understood.
Wait, what was your first one?
Mine was Dead Bear Walking, and the way that came to be, the polar bear.
You wrote a polar bear.
You don't know what you don't know, like
until you write a polar bear.
Giving somebody a chance to direct for the first time, thank you, obviously just a huge gift to do that, but it should be done carefully, and it should be done strategically, and it should be done with a lot of people having a lot of conversations, and I don't think that's the way Steve ever operated, and once I was told, yes, you're going to be able to do this, then the natural thing, the way Steve worked in the writer's room all the time, was when you're going to write an episode, it should be something that you love, something that you have an affinity for, something you think that you can knock out of the park, something that's going to be really fun for you. So you should treat directing the same way. Whatever episode you're going to write, that should be doubly like the one that you want to do. And I had just come back, once I knew, I was thinking, what should it be, you know? And I had been up in Vancouver for some other episode and having a side conversation with somebody and find out the most interesting piece of information, that Vancouver, the only trained polar bear in the entire world, is in Vancouver. And would be available for an episode, I was told. And I just stuck that in my head. I think I came back to LA and mentioned it long before that, and it was kind of shuffled aside. And then obviously that came to me like, what an opportunity, the only trained polar bear. And this is all I'll say about
Aggie the polar bear.
Aggie! Someone was waiting to find out what the name of the polar bear was. But this is the one story I'll tell from directing because it's humbling in a lot of ways. But I didn't, you don't know what you don't know. And so I wrote that because I love animals and I wanted to tell a story that the animal was the hero in the story, and what a cool thing to have the polar bear. And information filters down at different levels at different times. And I remember somehow it must have gotten to James that we were going to do a polar bear. He loves animals too. Great, we're going to do a polar bear. Somehow Steve got the line producer, Gord, to agree somehow we're going to do it and all of that stuff. I think the last person to know was Dulé. And Dulé usually is okay with most things if Rodet was okay with it, and Rodet had signed off on doing a thing with a polar bear, but he probably didn't get the emails, the safety emails, and all the things that were sent. And then we had to talk to him very, very carefully about how we would work around the polar bear. And so there were special meetings that Dulé had to be part of, how this was going to work, and we were explaining to him, this is the greatest thing. And he wanted to see it firsthand with the trainer and hear from the trainer exactly how this was going to work, because there was going to be a polar bear brought into the psych office. This is before, we weren't doing this with CGI. They were going to do some camera tricks, some things inside to make it look closer than it was, but we were going to put a polar bear inside the set of the psych office. And Dulé's, how is this going to work? And the trainer said, well, we have this electric wire that we set up, and the polar bear's been trained to never cross the electric wire. It's afraid, so they're afraid of the electric wire. And he said, so, but on the day, what about us and the electric wire? And he goes, oh, no, on the day, it's just a piece of string. Because the polar bear thinks that it's the wire. That's why we don't use electric wires. And then Dulé was like, no, I'm not going to do this. So was that.
I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that. But Dulé did that. But I'll say that for everything that you should not tackle Tuesday the 17th, or you should have done a Quiet Bottle episode or whatever it was. I was dealing with the polar bear, and that was not the hardest part. The hardest part, and Steve will remember this because he was up there, was we got delayed and delayed and delayed. We couldn't get the bear out of the place to put him in the thing, and so we were running against time. And we had one other special animal that we were going to have in the episode because it was about a zoo and animals. What other special animal do they have in Vancouver? Well, they have a lemur. Very cool. Saw the pictures of the lemur with the big eyes. How wonderful. What is the lemur trained to do? Nothing. But the lemur will sit on the actor's shoulder, and it'll be very, very cool. And we were losing light, and I'm like, well, what's the big deal? We'll just throw up some bigger lights and we'll do the thing. No, here's the problem. Lemurs, which I should have investigated, are nocturnal animals. So during the day, when the light is up, they're very calm. And they're very sedate, and they just have the big eyes and they look around. Once the sun goes down, a lemur can be incredibly aggressive. It would not be safe around an actor. And Don Lake, a great actor, who we should all know, he had the lemur on his shoulder. Then it was the director's conversation trying to explain to Don that we were pressed against time, and it was a bigger deal because the lemur might become aggressive. So I wish that it was sort of baptism by fire for me in so many different ways. And it was also, I was saying earlier, just payback for all the shenanigans I had caused for all that time, and all on the set, making jokes on the walkie-talkie about eating the fish at lunch. And you should see the nurse's station, and just disrupting production in general. As a writer, I had to apologize to a lot of people on that first couple days when I realized how big of a deal it was, when it was really just time. Time was the biggest thing. Probably not for James, I don't know about for you, Kirsten, I don't know about you, Steve, but when you go from sitting in Video Village as a writer, and it's fun, and your mind can just think about all the fun things that all the different lines you're gonna put, how you're gonna change the scene, suddenly in the director's chair, that's the thing that goes out the window. You can't even think about that. You're just, what shots do I have? How am I gonna get to this day? How am I gonna get this coverage? And it was just a really big lesson that, of course, made me a better person and a better writer, I think, ultimately.
Didn't Dulé haze you too? Like on the first
well, I don't want this to be about me, but that was very, very funny too. Because you know how the family came together for James and did everything, and of course everyone comes through. Steve created the show, everyone's gonna really Kirsten, these were her comrades, she's been in scenes with, they've been to war together, all of that stuff. Dulé decided that it would be funny. My very first scene was a police station scene. Start simple, but it was a lot of people. It was the whole cast, 5 or 6. And who is the actor from Family Ties?
Michael Gross.
Michael Gross, amazing actor. That was my first scene directing ever, was with Michael Gross. And he didn't know our show, and he didn't know our cast, and he didn't know me. And so a lot of times actors come in and test you and do that kind of thing. So I really needed the support of everybody, all my family, to come together to sort of let them believe I was capable of doing this and that they had confidence in me. And I came in for a blocking where we bring the actors in and they have their sides and we're just going to read through what the scene is, and then when they're done reading and they feel comfortable, then you kind of start mapping it out and telling people where they're going to be and and all that stuff. And on our show, we didn't have a ton of time to do that. So a lot of times the director would have to be like, you're going to start over here. Like there was, you're going to be here, you'll cross through here. You couldn't really have a lot of like creative conversations about it. And Dulé stops me halfway through in front of everybody in the cast and just says, I'm sorry, why am I standing over there? I was like, well, you're standing over there because then you and James are going to be in the same shot. So then when we come over here, that'll be coverage of the two of you. Yeah, but why am I standing over there? Why am I going over there to stand next to him in this scene? I haven't even spoken yet. How am I going to be able to walk over there to... And I was like,
Andy's he's so dialed in. He's so he's so sweet, sweet Andy.
Personally.
It's like, dude, how many times is this gonna take before you realize that he's fucking with you, man? Like,
No, I hear you, Dulé, I hear you. No.
I was just, Michael Gross is looking like, oh my God, this very, very small man is like going to be telling everybody what to do. And no, this is your family? These are the actors you worked with? They don't seem to like you and respect you very much. And then it turned out Dulé was just messing with me, and then things went well. But yeah, that's
a lot longer than any of us thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be like a quick little thing, ha ha ha, joke, on we go. But because you were listening to him and you wanted him to feel good about walking to the...
I had to try to excite me. That's what I knew. You've got to give the actor the real motive. You can't just tell an actor to go stanza. Now I do have to tell him why he's going over there and come up with a reason. And that's basically how my other first time went too. So it was all...
Telling
the panel
them
is really...
making them comfortable.
Yes.
Great. Hey, and James, was it Tuesday the 17th that you had, when you had scouted and it was gorgeous shafts of light?
Oh,
Tuesday?
I think that was Bigfoot.
Oh, that was Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Again, and then when you, subsequent directing episodes, didn't we load you up in the beginning? So knowing the shooting seasons that we were going to have. You're in every episode. You're in every scene. Didn't we give you ones early in the season? Or
I think so. That way I could prep them and stuff.
Yeah. So you had enough time to do all of the pre-work that it takes to direct.
Because you basically have the same number of days to prep an episode that you have to shoot it. So at any given moment, one is shooting and one is prepping, and the first episode of the season is the only one where nothing else is happening until it starts. So those were good slots for me because I could actually go up there and be a part of my own prep. But by the time I found the shafts of light, like I was drinking my own Kool-Aid. I was George Lucas at that point. And I wanted to go 45 minutes outside of the city to a specific stretch of woods. Because when we were there, it looked like heaven. And then when we came back to shoot, there was a cloud cover and there was no light at all. And everyone was so stoked that we traveled an hour to shoot something that we could have done in the GT or whatever that is.
Back lot.
Right behind the studio. Yeah. It's true.
It was one of those things, and I think there's a theme here that we all made it as difficult as possible on ourselves for the first time, because why make it easy when you can? And the funny thing is, it's so true, and I'm so guilty of writing exterior woods day in the script, and then the entire production go, oh my God, we're driving for 30 minutes up there, when in actuality, across the street from our studio are woods that no one would be able to tell are any different. And I think we
didn't want to get complacent, Yeah.
That's why you strap people to clock towers. That's why we have polar bears.
That's the craziest one to me, because we would never do it that way today, ever.
God, no.
We would never haul a crane to the top of a clock tower and actually strap Maggie Lawson to a chair over a rail the way that we did.
8 stories.
You would never do that. You'd put her in front of a green screen, we'd be on a stage, And then when you guys saw it, it would look like she was at the top of a tower with, staring, 30 stories down or whatever. But we didn't have that kind of juice. We didn't have that kind of cash.
Isn't that the beauty of the show now, if you look back on it? Because now if you watch that, Maggie really was hanging off a ledge. You know that James and Dulé were 6 feet away from a polar bear in a psych office. Like, that actually happened.
You knew that she really was crying and scared.
She was scared to death.
I mean, but it's that emotion of doing real things and that you were able to capture because Dulé was fucking scared.
Maggie was not acting in that
Maggie was not acting in it, no.
Hello, bear.
Oh, and it goes back also to the blissful ignorance, because the second time I directed, we had Carrie Ellis on the top of a building on a ledge that we were at the top of that building. And I don't know how expensive green screens must have been, but they must have been really prohibitive, because they said, this is the way we do it. And so we were in the very top floor of this building, and then there was a ledge, and then somebody else had like a little patio down below, and there was a mat down there, like a little...
traveling mat.
It was like the size of a California king bed. And it wasn't Carrie, obviously, jumping off, but it was a stunt guy, and the stunt guy is literally on this ledge that's this wide. He's like dancing around, having conversations, leaning back, stretching out, and then when we turn around to do the stunt, he just drops out of frame, and we're like, is there any chance he like bounces and then goes...
Just to give you context, I was scared just being at the top of that building. And I was in a comfortable chair, but we were very high up.
And the other best part of that, there was something that happened that was way more terrifying than that, is that we'd met Carrie, showed up, that was his first scene. So they turned around with the guys, and we had written this character, Despero, who was just the international... And when you're in prep and you're in, we met him, we said hi, it was going to be so great, this will be awesome. In our heads, we're just thinking, Despero sounds like Carrie Elwes. But on the first take, we go, okay, action. And he turns around and he goes, hello, my guys. And we're like, oh my God, he's doing the French accent because we named the character Despero. And we gave him no other reason to think that he wouldn't be French.
Oh my God.
It's 100% on us because it made perfect sense.
And I'm like, I'm a one-time director who's gonna go tell the most charming man to be in a movie, hey, by the way, you know this French accent you've been working on for the last couple weeks? Don't do that.
Can you just do Princess Bride? Can you just do Princess Bride?
As you wish.
It's like, hey, over in England, how do you guys like talk, regular? How do you do that? What does that sound like?
That's what the people want, Carrie.
Just give them what
He
they
so
want.
plainly said, but the character's name's Despero, right? Like, did you not mean that to be a French guy? And it's even on each other, like, we just like the sound of the name. I mean, it sounded like an international thief of some kind.
There was a movie with a mouse, and it just looked cool.
Yeah.
Steve said, I'm 6 feet 8 inches of pure asshole. I'm so sorry, but also don't do the French. Don't do that. Don't do that. Should we take a question?
Yeah, we should.
Do we need to look at these?
From Sabrina, perhaps, who joined us all the way from Georgia.
Georgia.
What was the hardest episode to act in versus the hardest episode to direct, and why?
Andy, what do you got? James?
Let's see. Hardest episode to act in was probably for me because I don't really have access to human emotions. Probably the one where I had to Sean has to tell Juliet that
D's nub.
D's nuts. The scene where Sean comes clean. Because there was so much buildup, and we had been talking about it for so long, and how are we going to do it, and when are we going to do it, and what's that going to be like, and Mag's so good at acting. And I start talking, and her face is just so, it's so sad. Like she's doing such a good job of internalizing all of this. And then I start feeling things. And
Oh no,
yeah.
oh no, you're acting.
Yeah, and I've got like, I don't know, I've got like my dress shirt is
It's untucked.
It's untucked. It's not. It's sloppy. She throws the thing in my face, and yeah, that was a tough one. That was a tough. There was no funny business in that scene at all.
No, and I actually talked to a fan. I know where you are, but they said they love D's Nups. Stop it. They won't watch you guys. It's too hard. It's too hurt.
Yeah.
It hurts because you guys do it so well.
Yeah, it wasn't super fun, and we didn't do multiple takes. Like we really got that scene done pretty quickly because neither of us really wanted to like live in that space. Hardest episode to direct was definitely Yang 2, just because it was so ridiculously ambitious, and the stuff we were doing, like we just said, was silly. And trying to cram it all into 7 days was, I don't even know how we did that, to be honest. Again, props to our crew. Kirsten, acting, directing?
Acting. Tim Matheson, he was directing one. Which one did Tim Matheson direct?
One that Andy wrote with the Love Is in the Air.
The Love Is in the Air?
That wasn't me, but
Speed dating.
Speed dating.
Yes,
And
that was me.
What was that one called? That has a
That
name.
was called She Loves Me, She Loves Me Not, She Loves Me.
Oops.
She's dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really I don't know, I couldn't say the lines. And that was really
my
hard.
fault.
And it
I wrote something terrible.
wait a minute, yeah, it's gonna be that I couldn't say your lines. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I can't, no, there was just something where I had a mind block where I couldn't get over it, and it was so frustrating, take after take, that I was ruining take after take, and I was feeling really, really low, of like wanting to do good and get the day done, and yet it still just wouldn't come out, and that one still has actor pain attached to it of, oh no, I'm not good here.
Well, if I can make you feel better, Kirsten, besides my bad writing, I felt bad for Tim Matheson because when he looked at a call sheet and he realized that the guy at the speed dating talking about drinking his own urine was going to be me, and that he didn't have a choice, that he was going to have to direct me because he didn't get to look at any selects or anybody else reading these lines. I'm sure that was difficult for him too.
You took that guy's backstory out of your own personal experience.
I did.
That was cool.
I did.
Yeah. So it was you felt a little exposed that day, I remember.
It was a first time.
Yeah.
First timer. And then hardest thing to direct,
Yeah.
besides that thing. But Odyssey was just a real joy to direct, but I think maybe one of the harder ones, oh gosh, we're running out of time, aren't we, is, yes, the Lassiter Juliet scene, but also the Sean Juliet scene of that goodbye. And that was, again, being aware of goodbyes and being aware of emotions and wanting to make sure that everybody was comfortable and wanting to make that happen. But again, naivete of not knowing. We just do it, you just feel it, and it just happens. So either that or social sector, all of that stuff. That was the online content that we directed, and so that was crazy. Yeah.
We have 60 seconds. So Andy can fart a song. That's one option, right?
I can do my just getting out of the shower fart.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we
One
want.
has to be very quiet. I hope this will be picked up on the mic.
And then you have to shower
That's what
again.
it sounds
Because
like.
it completely defeats the purpose of
Just
having
got-
just taken
yeah.
a shower
Yeah.
when you fart that soon after it's over.
I'm so glad I'm here.
Yeah. No,
How have I known you for 20 years and I didn't know
Didn't
that
know
bit?
I had that.
20 years? Don't stop
I know, it's
that
crazy.
over and over.
you also have a child that
Well, she also
demarcates how long it's been. You both do.
Yeah, you've got your 20-year-old, I've got my 20-year-old, and they clock time for us, and they show us that life grows and that they're tall now, and but we all still know each other.
And yours was in the pilot.
Baby bum.
Yeah.
And on that note, on the note of Andy's shower fart, this comes to a
Thank you,
conclusion.
everybody.
Anecdotes, first time in the director's chair, James Roday Rodriguez,
Hey, thanks, guys.
Steve Franks, Kristen Nelson, and Andy Shower Fart Berman.
Rest up. We'll see you back here in a little bit.
We